Good evening and welcome inside Laura's Bar and Grill in Smithfield, Rhode Island. This is the Bryant Football Coaches Show presented by Laura's Bar and Grill. Tristan Hobbes alongside the head coach of the Bulldog football team, James Perry. The Bulldogs coming off a bye week, a boring week in the Perry household. Bulldogs did not play last weekend. They are on the road this weekend. They head out to Duquesne, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to take on the Dukes in a key Northeast Conference matchup. Coach, you've had 7 days to see how the other half lives. You excited to get back into game week?
Yeah, I think the kids did a good job of taking advantage of the bye week, making sure we're getting bigger, faster, stronger, especially from a fitness level perspective. So that was good. And now by the time Saturday night rolls around, you're watching everybody else play. We were kind of chewing at the bit. So back into game week is a good thing.
The Bulldogs are 3-1 on the season, 1-0 in Northeast Conference play. The last time they saw them on the field was a 49-46 victory over Robert Morris on homecoming and reunion weekend here in Smithfield. We'll be back home on the 13th of October, second to last home game of the season. We host Central. But Coach, 3-1. Let's recap a little bit before we get into the nuts and bolts of Duquesne this week. Your team opened the season, a victory over New Haven at home, went on the road, up in the third quarter against a Stony Brook team that is now ranked number 12 in the country, and then came back home, beat Marist in the first ever home night game, and then beating Robert Morris on homecoming. So it was a busy 4 weeks, 3 of those 4 games at home. It was nice to be able to get into a rhythm at home, but now the rest of your schedule, the final 7, you play a lot of road games. 5 of those 7 are on the road. Quickly going back to those first 4, what'd you like, and you did some self-scout this week. Did you see anything that you maybe missed the first time through?
Sure, I think, for us, we're getting better each week, which is nice to see. I think, especially from, how we get to advance each week. When I look at the cut-up, sometimes it's one play, but you get to see how far we've come since the New Haven game. And I think the kids are hungry to make another step, which we're going to need to because, coming down these next 7 games, we're going to play some very, very good football teams, starting with Duquesne. So it was nice to see us. When you look at the 4 games, we get better each week, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that progress.
Is there anything that sticks out, maybe that was very evident why the team got better each week? Was there something there that maybe that you saw, okay, each week this is kind of what we're getting better at, and this is helping us overall get better?
Yeah, and I think, absolutely. I think from the perspective of you're teaching off wins is kind of nice too, because when you look at New Haven, there are things that, if we look at a play like one of our inside zone, from a run game, one of our base plays, and, you just get to see, even though up front we're returning some players, that in week 4, when we're playing Robert Morris, a very good Robert Morris team, we're getting more movement. We're handling movement on the defense better, and the backs are starting to hit the holes the way that we want them to a little better. And, individually each play, that's true. And then I think just from a fitness level perspective and how we practice, from my perspective, we're practicing a lot better leading into the Robert Morris game than we did leading into the New Haven game. So that's rewarding. And like I said, we're going to need it. We're going to need to keep getting better. So we'll see.
And one of the things, Coach, that could easily have happened in the first 4 weeks, a lot of distractions. Obviously, school starting, and you're in your student-athlete mode, but then you have 3 home games, but all 3 of those games very meaningful. The first one, then you have the first ever night home game, and then you have the homecoming and reunion home game, and the dedications, and you're on the road for a 6 o'clock start. A lot of things for 18 to 22-year-old that could distract them, that could make a change in how they play on Saturday, and your team seemed to handle it all very well.
Yeah, and we take so much pride in how we handle the classroom, for example. We're really lucky to have such great professors, and then the support staff is tremendous. So we take a lot of pride in that, and, we'll find out because midterms are coming up. But, the kids take that seriously, I think. For me, just watching, we're playing a lot of freshmen too, so watching everybody, whether it's older guys, freshmen, as they progress and fall into that rhythm that we want them to, which is today, hey, we don't practice. Monday, I'm walking on the way to Golski, seeing guys buzzing around the unit structure, hitting their classes, and, we'll be in that rhythm where Tuesday, Wednesday are heavy work days on the field. So, yeah, there's an element of this time of year where you come off a bye and you're back into game week. And for me, I love it, and it's fun coaching a group of guys who love it too. So it's exciting.
Let's talk about that bye week, Coach. You talked last Monday about how you wanted the fitness level to increase over the next 3 or 4 practices. Did you see that from your team? What excited you the most about last week's practices?
Well, they're hard, actually, because we take the pads off. So we take the pads off for the full week, and, learning how to practice that way is not an easy thing. And that was a real challenge last year. When we would take the pads off, how you still practice hard, how you still able to get a lot out of it, and being able to do it in a different way. You can have just as challenging practice like we did last Thursday without pads on as we will tomorrow with pads on. It's just they're kind of 2 different practices. So I was happy to see us. I remember last year's bye week. It was something that we really had to talk about a lot. In this year, the kids kind of are more accustomed to it. So I think we accomplished the goal. And yesterday I got to see them. They were pretty pumped up. It was funny. We left the team meeting, and I think the kids, being in game week, it was nice to see the kids respond, and they seem hungry. So I'll be excited to see tomorrow. Talking
with head coach James Perry over at Bryant University. The Bulldogs getting back to the gridiron this weekend. They go out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to take on Duquesne, a 1 o'clock kickoff at Rooney Field. We'll talk about that game and much more when we come back. This is the Bryant Football Coaches Show presented by Laura's Bar and Grill.
Football, we got a lot of it. NEC Front Row will carry more than 30 live games during the 2017 season and will provide plenty of pigskin coverage in between. Prepare for the week's list of games by watching the whole 9 yards. Then on Tuesdays, revisit the top eye-popping plays with the NEC Football Super 7 Countdown. Get to necfrontrow.com and enjoy your front row seat to the 2017 Northeast Conference football season.
Welcome back to the Bryant Football Coaches Show presented by Laura's Bar and Grill here in Smithfield. Another great night, Coach. A Monday night, a little rainy outside, but they got the the play-in games here. The West and the Central both have play-in games today. Game 163. Thinking about baseball, you're a football guy. What was if you didn't play football? What was your next sport?
Yeah, basketball.
Basketball.
I love basketball. I still do. And it was funny. Other than the Red Sox being in the playoffs, I don't think I know anything else. That and the Orioles are in last place because my wife's from Baltimore. But no, I'll be looking forward in the winter to watching, Bryant men's and women's basketball. I'll be like, I always tell, I've told Jared now that he's, now he's taking the job over. I said, well, you can count on me getting on the refs for you, so you don't have to when I'm at the games and watching Mary do her thing. I'm a huge basketball guy.
And now I know that in the summer you have the annual basketball tournament that you and your coaches participate in, and that's for your father, correct?
Yep, my dad's memorial 3-on-3. So for us in the Perry family, as the youngest of 7, everybody has to enter a team. So I always get a few high school buddies together, and unfortunately, Sam, Nate, and Rose, every year I get older, so they don't believe that I once could hit a basketball shot. I used to like to shoot the 3. Now I look worse and worse. But we had 21 teams last year.
Wow.
Yep.
And what was for you? Football and basketball is a tough dual sport because of the overlap a little bit. What for you was how did you make one help you in the other? What was?
Yeah, I mean, I loved basketball probably as a player first. I loved basketball. So, I was the kid who in high school would play pickup hoop after football practice. So maybe it's a little unusual, and that way. But, I think just now when I'm coaching football, I often rely on the spacing that you learn through basketball. I talk about the fact that the field is 53 1/3 yards of width, and in comparison, a basketball court's 96 feet. So you're talking about this huge playing surface with all this space. So I talk about using all that space. And for me, I call upon that frame of reference, a basketball frame of reference all the time when I'm coaching.
Who was a guy that when you were a kid you looked up to as far as a basketball, your icon? Who was it?
Yeah, so I'm a Celtic through and through. I love the Celtics. So growing up, it was Larry Bird. Then as an adult, Paul Pierce. And now I'm a huge fan of this current team. That's
Okay.
you can't get better than the current Celtic team. And just, everybody said NBA, it wasn't going to be a team game and all this. And here, watching the Celtics doesn't get a better team game than watching them distribute the ball. And so, yeah.
Talking hoops, football, we're talking it all with Coach Perry. One thing I like to do, coaches, on this show is pick the coach's brain about recruiting because the bye week does allow for a little bit more thought to recruiting for the upcoming season. First question, in your 16 months, what has been the best thing for you about recruiting to Bryant University? Bryant, recruiting the kids to come here and be a part of this university, this program.
Getting them on campus. So, for me, any chance we get to get guys on campus, it is a huge win for us. And it's been a big part of why we've been able to attract these such high-level student athletes, as we have. And, we're putting them on the field. So a year ago, when you get a David Zarilla to come on to campus, they're blown away. And we're very, very lucky to have that. So this year, we've had a night game where we had a number of guys able to come and watch us play and see the support that we get. We had homecoming. And each of those games, and we're talking dozens of recruits are coming through Bryant and checking us out.
And the Bulldogs, bye week last week, getting set this week to take on Duquesne out in Pittsburgh. We'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the Dukes in the upcoming game this Saturday. This is the Bryant Football Coaches Show, presented by Laura's Bar and Grill here in Smithfield.
You want football? We got a lot of it. NEC Front Row will carry more than 30 live games during the 2017 season and will provide plenty of pigskin coverage in between. Prepare for the week's list of games by watching the whole 9 yards. Then on Tuesdays, revisit the top eye-popping plays with the NEC Football Super 7 Countdown. Get to necfrontrow.com and enjoy your front row seat to the 2017 Northeast Conference football season.
Welcome back to the Bryant Football Coaches Show, presented by Laura's Bar and Grill here in Smithfield. Tristan Hobbes, head coach James Perry. Coach, before we go on to the Dukes, I just wanted to ask you one more question. Now, you mentioned it be able to bring kids on campus for the first 3 home games and the excitement that it brought. Now having a week you didn't have a game, obviously still preparing for the next 7. Were you able to sit back and really maybe soak in a little bit about the excitement that 3 of those home games brought, the opener, the night game, the homecoming, and there was a lot going on in a short period of time, and sometimes not until the season's over can you look back and say, wow, that was awesome. What an experience for our kids. Were you able to sit back at all and kind of reflect on that?
Yeah, and what helps me reflect on is I continue to get to know all the guys who support us. And, whether it's the emails on the heels of that Robert Morris victory, which I appreciate and sometimes relate to the players because it'll specifically mention them or whatever. And then when you're watching the games, it's fun to be at a place that is is just getting better all the time. The school's getting better. The football program, we're getting better all the time. And to see it kind of materialize is a really fun thing. So we got the task at hand, so you can't get too wrapped up in it. But it is nice to know that that's there, and I think the kids are responding well to it.
Task at hand is a trip out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. First trip to Western Pennsylvania this year. The Bulldogs will also go out to Loretto, Pennsylvania. A little bit of a shorter drive, but still it's out there later this year in November. Coach, first, the toughest part of this trip is the travel. It's a 10-hour trip. You guys break it up into 2 different trips, 2 different days. How do you coach that, teach that, prepare your kids for that? There's so much that goes into that that's not related to football.
Sure. I actually, on the way out, it's kind of a good thing for us because, we coach guys who love being around each other. It's a long time on a bus together, but that's kind of like a bonding experience for us. And then you get an opportunity to practice on the road. This year we're going to go to Lock Haven, which will be a lot of fun. See a different school, get on their grass, and do some practicing. So from that perspective, it can be really fun. Now, logistically, for Brad Baker, it's not a lot of fun. There's a lot of moving parts. We're going to be on Thursday night. We're going to walk into a hotel at 12:31 a.m. By the time it's all said and done, because we're going to practice at home, eat dinner in Salmo, and do all those things before we even try. But so I don't envy Brad's job. And there's some things that, as a head coach, I'll be nervous about. But I think the kids really embrace it. More time around each other, more time to kind of soak in football. And then, for us, we'll have this great challenge of playing a terrific team. And, I know my guys really embrace challenges. So and this will sure be one. So we'll embrace that challenge too.
Your second year in this league, so it's going to be your first trip out to Rooney Field, the historic field. It's on the bluff, overlooks downtown Pittsburgh, overlooks the river. Great little field. Do you do much pre-scout of where you're going to be playing, what the atmosphere is like, any of that stuff? Do you talk to people about that, or is that not on your mind?
Yeah, so no, I mean, you can tell it's a great place and it's a great venue just by watching the film. But I've never been there, don't know anything on that end of it. But they're gonna have a ton of energy. From what I'm told, it's right in the middle of campus, people are right on top of you, which is a fun way to play FCS football. That'll be great. And anytime you're playing a team that's of this caliber on their turf, you're in for a great challenge. So it'll be fun to see Duquesne, for me, for the first time, and be playing at that field.
The Bulldogs took on Duquesne last season at home, last game of the year here in Smithfield, the last game on the grass field here at Burns Stadium. The Bulldogs coming from behind to win that game 38-29. A couple of big plays in that game. Tom Kennedy, big 50-yard touchdown reception, and then I believe it was Jesse Nemerowitz with the interception to secure the victory at the end. It's been a really good series between these two teams, 6-4 in favor of the Bulldogs. Bryant 2-2 out in Pittsburgh. The last time the Bulldogs were there, 35-31, Duquesne on top in that contest. Keenan Thompson, a program record, 4 touchdown receptions. The other guy on the other team as well, 4 touchdowns as well. Abner Roberts, it was a great game for those two guys. 8 touchdowns combined for 2 receivers. But, Coach, it was also the coming out party for Thomas Costigan. That game he had an interception. He also had a strip sack in back-to-back possessions. Since that, in the 18 games, the numbers are through the roof for Tom as far as the number of tackles, tackles for a loss, sacks. You rarely can point to a game in a player's career in which you say, oh, man, maybe they've now figured it out and they're there. But you look back at Tom Costigan since that game in November of 2016 has been almost unstoppable. And it's kind of fun to look back at the series and see kind of where things have gone from there.
Sure, and that's neat to hear, actually. But, from my perspective, what a great thing to walk into, right? My first game coaching here, at that point, we knew what kind of talent we had. Tom, my first August here just wreaked havoc, and it was just one of those things where, at least as we tried to block him, you knew he was going to play on your side, and then he goes out and has the season he had. which is really historic, player of the year, all the things he did for us last year. And now he's our captain. So he's a kid who's, it's just fun when an NFL talent is also your captain and, one of your best practicers, and just all the things that he does intangibly match that high-end ability. So, that's fun for me, and it's neat to hear where he was 2 years ago. But certainly for these 15 games, he's just been remarkable, and it'll be exciting to see what he can do with the last 7.
This will be the second time opponent you've coached against in your career, Robert Morris being the first, but again, whole new coaching staff. Tough to kind of get any tendencies from the year before. How much does the film of last year's game against Duquesne, how much of that has gone into preparation for this week's game?
Yeah, people change every year. And sometimes they change and okay, these are adjustments that they're going to make. Sometimes they change, but these are things that they do against us, especially offensively. Just to be honest, we play up-tempo. We use a lot of different formations that maybe no one else uses. Like we won't even have any film beside our own on some things that we do. So in personnel groupings, some of that stuff that we do is kind of unique to us. So it's always nice to see that. And then you've got to make a calculated judgment. Are they doing this and they're just going to do it no matter, or do they kind of revert to what they do against you? And, heck, I got to the point at, 7 years at Princeton, you'd see someone 7 times. You knew they're going to revert when they play you. We don't know that yet. We do know we're playing a heck of a football team. They've seen us play offense and defense and special teams last year against them. We've seen them play against us, so we both have exchanged film on each other, and it'll be fun.
All right, this is a Duquesne team that is 3-2 on the year. Their only 2 losses to FBS programs. They opened the year against UMass, and then last week they had a bye, but before that they went out to Hawaii. They made the long trek to Hawaii, took on another FBS member, and was up 14-0 in the first quarter. What have you seen that has stuck out to you? I know they've always been a tough team, hard-nosed. That's what I've gathered. What have you seen from the film in getting ready for Saturday?
Well, I think they're a great representative for the league. When you're an elite FCS football program, and certainly as a league, we want to be an elite FCS league. You like to go and handle yourself well against FBS, and that's what they did. In many ways, they were more physical than their opponent. And anytime you're playing an FBS football team, not only were they winning, but the way they were winning, really taking the game to them. They changed the line of scrimmage on both sides very, very well. It's like I said, it's a great representation of where this league's at. And it's certainly a great representation of where they're at. That's just an elite FCS football program.
Folks, if you're planning on watching this game on Saturday, which I hope you are, make sure you don't leave your couch, because these are 2 offenses that can score points very quickly, and 2 of the best receivers in all of the FCS. Gene Constant for Bryant, Nahari Crawford for Duquesne. Both are tied for 3rd nationally with 6 touchdown receptions on the season. Both have scored a kick return as well. Nahari Crawford, a punt return. Gene, a kick return to open the season. Talk about 2 guys that play their position better than anybody else in the country, Coach. I mean, those guys are unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. And, we get all this crossover film. So when you watch Duquesne crossover film, you get a chance to see, a guy who, my brother's coaching NFL wide receivers, who has that kind of talent, just a rare thing to see on the FCS level. And then kind of like Tom Costing, a guy who's got that kind of talent, but then backs it up with production. Just every week it seems like he's doing something extraordinary. And no matter what type of coverage he's facing, like all great ones, is able to still be productive.
And now, Coach, for your team going into this week, what is the message for you? What are you hoping to get across to your players? And what are you hoping to see from your team on Saturday?
Well, I think the first thing is it was fun to see us respond yesterday. A lot of energy. It wasn't, you light a fire under their backsides because we're coming off the bye week. And there was none of that, So it'll be fun to go out there tomorrow. We'll be really deep on Duquesne at that point, probably a little deeper than if we weren't on a bye, a little bit further ahead, which is nice. And, just get back out there and get practicing and prepare ourselves for a great challenge on Saturday.
How much fun are these Saturdays?
Well, I mean, now it's 7 straight.
Yeah.
It's the best thing that you got 7 straight. Your work of 52 weeks in a year. You work for these 11, and now without interruption, we'll go and play 7. We'll play 5 league games. It doesn't get any better than this. And like I said, even things like getting on a bus Thursday night and having a whole day together Friday. It's a lot of fun, and especially with this group of guys, they're easy to motivate. They're easy to coach that way, and they're such a tight-knit group. So you can't get any better than the next 7.
And I know you're excited, Coach. How excited are you to see your team and what they can do and perform and grow as a team?
And that's, to me, there's nothing more rewarding. And that's where when we had an opportunity to kind of reflect on the season, it's just nice to say, okay, here we were week 1. These are some of the mistakes we made. Here, we do some things at week 2, get a little better, keep making steps. And here we are week 4. Okay, man, we're getting close. We're getting close to what I think we could be, as the season goes on. And we got another challenge in front of us now. And, you can't beat it.
Head coach James Perry, the Bulldogs taking on Duquesne this weekend in a big Northeast Conference showdown out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kickoff is set for 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon at Rooney Field. You can watch the game live on necfrontrow.com. You can also listen live here in Smithfield or worldwide, WOON 1240 or ONworldwide.com. Myself and Tim Lynch will have the call at Rooney Field. Again, that's 1 o'clock on Saturday. Bulldogs are back at home on October 13th against Central Connecticut. Get your tickets today, BryantBulldogs.com/tickets. We'll be back here at Laura's Bar and Grill next Monday. Talk about the game against Duquesne as well as get you set for the Blue Devils coming to town for family and friends weekend. Coach Perry, thanks for joining us again. And we will see you next Monday. This is the Bryant Football Coaches Show presented by Laura's Bar and Grill.